Brought to you by JEGS.
The 2011 and up Mustang 5.0s respond great to just normal bolt-ons, but if you really want to go fast, you're going to need some boost. Today we follow one man's quest to go faster with his 2013 Mustang by equipping his car with the new Edelbrock Stage 2 kit. Edelbrock Stage 2 kit now comes with more boost to make more horsepower to make you go faster.
So on my 13 Mustang, before I put the Edelbrock Supercharger on it, I actually had this car pretty modded out, naturally aspirated. Had a Boss intake, throttle body, air intake, full exhaust, some 410 gear. Car was pretty much moving pretty fast. I had it at 740s, which pretty much equated to 1139 in the quarter mile. So, and this car was putting those numbers down like a bracket racer every time at the strip. So obviously I wanted to go a little bit faster with my 13 Mustang. From the point where I was naturally aspirated, I really wanted to put a supercharger on it. Knowing that a supercharger such as the Edelbrock will probably give me about anywhere between 130 to 150 horsepower, safe horsepower, was pretty much what I was looking for. So when I got my 13 Mustang, it made 337 horsepower at 334 foot-pounds of torque, which is quite impressive.
Edelbrock's had their Stage 1 Supercharger package out for the Coyote for a couple years now. We actually got to drive their project vehicle with it. Supercharger kit installed in it was a ton of fun to drive. Now with the Stage 2 kit, you get more boost and obviously more horsepower and torque. On 91 octane, through the stock exhaust, you can expect about 646 horsepower at the crank on a manual transmission vehicle. Edelbrock's Stage 2 Supercharger package for the 2011 up Mustang comes with a smaller supercharger pulley and also a competition air inlet. Between those two things, you're going to see more boost pressure inside the motor. Couple that together with the unique calibration that's included on the SCT device, and you're talking about a plug-and-play installation that'll fire up the first time.
So the Edelbrock E-Force Supercharger is based off the Eaton Gen 6 TVS rotating assembly. Now it's got 4 load rotors that are twisted 160 degrees to allow for a higher efficiency, low temperature rise, and overall quiet operation. Now, Edelbrock's integrated the supercharger into the actual intake manifold, which does a couple really cool things. It actually drops the supercharger down into the valley of the motor. This allows for a 15-inch runner, which really maximizes your torque, and it also allows a factory hood to clear because of how low the supercharger actually sits. So the overall installation of this kit was pretty basic. First we started with the disassembly, which was removing hood, removing the front bumper cover, and just getting a couple of general things out of the way. Then once you get the intake manifold out of the way, you're ready to start a couple modifications. Now, we don't need to make a lot of major modifications, but the main thing that we have to do is modify the cooling system a little bit to allow for the actual new cooling system that we're going to install for the supercharger.
The main wiring is a water pump, which itself is pretty simple, but you also have a couple other harnesses, like for example, you have to separate the mass airflow sensor signal out from the IAT. Because the IAT, you want to see what the temperature is at the supercharger, so there's a simple harness that separates out that IAT signal and puts it right into the back of the intake manifold.
Okay, now that we've got the supercharger actually sitting in place, installed, torqued down, and all our wires and connections made, we just need to go through, make sure all our hoses are reconnected from the cooling system modifications, top off our fluid, and give everything else in the engine bay just a nice, good once-over to make sure we didn't forget anything.
It went 450 at the 330. If you would have gone all out, it probably would have ran a 690, what do you think?
Absolutely. The car had just a ton of power still in it. It felt kind of weird to hit the brakes at the end, but hey, it is what it is. You got no cage. You got to make sure, you got to do what you got to do to make sure you can make another pass. But this next pass, we're going to get thrown out. So I'm going all out.
So my 13 finally got the numbers that we were really looking for with the supercharger on it. Went 695 in the 8th mile at 98 miles an hour, which pretty much equated to about 1063s in the quarter mile, which, in my opinion, is great. But I did get warned at the track because I did not have a roll cage that I was going to get thrown out. So the next run, I ran a 705 at 97 miles an hour, which equates to about a 1075, 1078. And of course, yes, I did get thrown out. So did achieve the numbers and the times I was looking for.
So I didn't get to go to the track and actually run the car down the track after the install, but I did get to put it on the dyno. Let's talk about some numbers. Okay, so when we first brought this car into our shop in its stock format, we put down a pretty decent number for a showroom car. It was 337 horsepower actually to the wheel. Now with the E-Force Supercharger, you can expect to see about 200 horsepower increase, and that's just about what we got. With just the plug-and-play tune that we had on it, we got 500 and mid-20 horsepower, so about 525, 523 right in there, consistently back-to-back.
The difference with my 13 Mustang with the Supercharger versus a naturally aspirated, they really drive the same all up until you put your right foot in it. Then you really notice the difference. The Supercharger is very smooth, it's very responsive, and my goodness, it just puts the grin on your face from end to end.
Brought to you by JEGS. Lifetime support. Complete customer satisfaction. Delivering performance since 1960. JEGS.com.